Hello chess family, it's me National Master Jesse James, and today we're taking a look at the French defense. Now this one is going to be the MacCutcheon Variation, and well, who better to teach us than Nepo, one of the best tactical chess players, at least out right now. Unfortunately, he did lose the World Chess Championship twice to two amazing chess players, but we all know his prowess, and well, we all respect him as a chess player. With that being said, let's take a look at how he's going to teach us the French defense. Here we go. We start with e4, e6. Here we go. French or not. d4, d5. Knight to c3. This is the Paulson variation. Knight to f6. This goes into the classical defense. And bishop g5. Now we have what's called the Byrne variation. The idea being is, well, if you take on e4 here, knight takes on e4, this gives white very good attacking chances. Why is that? Well, after you take here, you're opening up the game, and black is a bit back in development here, so, well, the bishops can't really get out too well, and you control less of the center. Not very much what we're looking for. Instead here, we look like we're playing the one of our variation. We play bishop to b4, but this is known as the MacCutcheon variation. One key factor here is that, well, you play the knight out first rather than playing bishop to b4. That would be the win of our variation. It does get confused quite a bit there. I mean, already here we're threatening a lot of cool ideas here, taking on e4, but you might be asking, hey, can't they just play e5 here? This is actually the main line, so let's take a look at it. e5 gets played, and what do you play here? Well, there's only one move to not lose a piece, at least without getting something back in return, which is to play pawn to h6 here. And there is quite a few ways to play it. White went ahead and played the strongest move, or at least the most popular move, with bishop to d2. Someone might be asking, hey, can't we just play bishop h4 here? You can, you're more than welcome to, but g5 just gets played here, and yeah, I think black is just equalizing after this. Here, bishop g3 does get played quite a bit. Knight to e4 here, and well, I guess you can say that black's king side is messed up, but I'm mostly liking black in this game, and computer already says that this is an equal position. Although white, at least on Lee chess, does have a very good win ratio with 38% versus black's 23%. So, something to take a look at. All right, back to the game. Here, white went ahead and played bishop back to d2 to stop this pin, not allowing the double pawns here. And, well, let's go ahead and give it away. Bishop takes on c3. Here, this bishop can just be a bad piece. So, well, we'll just trade it off. Pawn takes on c3. And this is one of those good and bad moves. Yes, you're giving yourself the double pawns here, but what are you getting out of this? Well, this bishop might be able to come back to c1 and then to a3. As if you played bishop takes c3, well, black just gets a free tempo with knight to e4. And that's why black went ahead and gave up the bishop so fast here, was that he knew that knight e4 was going to come here. So, here he goes ahead and plays pawn takes on c3. The knight comes to e4, and now a very common move in these French defenses, queen to g4. A nice move here, attacking the pawn here on g7, saying, yes, you're more than welcome to take here on d2 here, as this will not really hurt me. For instance, knight takes on d2, which does happen later on in the game. King takes on d2, and well, the king is actually pretty snug here, and it's not going to be attacked anytime soon. And yeah, I think I would prefer this position as white now. Back to the game though. After knight to e4, queen to g4, here black plays king to f8. Remember, in the French defense, you do not have to castle. In fact, in a lot of these lines, it's best you do not castle. If you castle, you're castling right into the attack, and there's already ideas like bishop takes h6, which is just going to be leading to a very strong attack here for white. So, black just plays the very simple king to f8 move. He might be saying, hey, I'm not going to be able to castle here, my rook's cut off. Do not worry. One of the best things about the French defense is that it is a closed position. As we will see here very soon, Nepo is actually going to close the position, meaning allowing no pawn trades here. Excuse me. Allowing no pawn trades here, which means even though you might have pieces out, you just can't attack your opponent. All right. Queen over to f4. Pawn to c5, and like I said, Nepo's looking to go ahead and try and close this position. So an idea like pawn to c4 will be very strong, especially if your opponent is threatening to play a move like bishop to d3 to dislodge or kick this knight. And, well, you're more than welcome to take on c5 here. Just know that you did mess up your pawn structure with these triple pawns. And you could take on c5 here, although I would probably play something like queen to c7 here, looking to grab the pawns over here and keep this knight on its very good square in the middle. So here, c5 got played. Bishop to d3, threatening to take this knight over here. So let's go ahead and just trade here. Knight takes on d2. Queen takes on d2. Here you could play the king takes on d2 here, but maybe it's not so official here, because after pawn takes, Maybe something like queen to a5 check can be a little annoying. And that's just one variation. I'm not saying this is the best way to play, but you could just put pressure on d4 here with knight c6, and then something like queen to a5 here. And this can definitely be bad for your position. So, well, white went ahead and just played it nice and safe. Queen takes on d2. Pawn to c4, and this is what it's all about. We're closing the position and making this bishop bad. This is very common in a lot of the French defenses, that the light square bishop can become bad. This bishop is either your savior bishop by doing good attacks on a7 whenever they castle, or it becomes a very bad bishop, and as you can see here, it really just has no good diagonal. Alright, let's keep pushing forward here. Bishop back to e2, because where else? Knight to d7. Knight to f3. Queen to a5. Yes, this pawn on a3 is a bad pawn. It's doubled, and well, it can't really be defended by another piece other than this queen. I mean, I guess you can try to look around for other moves here, but it's going to be a little bit hard. And the c3 pawn is actually going to become a target pretty soon here. Pawn to g4 gets played. Here, white is pretty desperate just to create some kind of counterplay here. And here, Nepo just goes ahead and targets the c3 pawn with knight to b6, threatening the knight to a4. All right, here we go. Queen to e3. Queen to a3. Pawn to g5. Knight to e4, again putting pressure on c3. Okay, the king went to d2, as this was one of the best ways to defend this pawn, but now you're spending your whole time here as white just defending the c3 pawn. And look at black's pieces. Although they're not really developed, black is just doing pretty well because this is a very, very solid pawn structure. Okay, black goes ahead and plays b5 here, which is a move I really do like. Here, b4 is being threatened, also trying to open up some lines over here on the queen side. Rook a to b1, trying to stop the threat. Bishop d7, let's just go ahead and defend. Rook over to g1. Bishop to e8, a very weird looking move here, but sometimes in this game, black will be playing f6, or maybe even just bringing up the bishop out on this other diagonal. Also, bishop defending, why not? Pawn takes on h6. Rook takes on h6. Again, white's just trying to create some kind of open lines here to attack the king. Unfortunately, well, black just has a good advantage here. Rook over to g3. Rook over to b8, again threatening this pawn to b4. Since black's king is nice and snug, it is now time to keep attacking this king. Knight to g5 here. Here, white is really just fishing for anything in the position. Pawn to b4, let's go for the attack. Pawn takes, and here we go, queen takes on a2. Of course, trading off queens would not be the best here because the king is very vulnerable. And the only other move I would think about playing in this kind of position would be something like pawn to c3 check, which apparently loses a lot of the advantage. After the king goes back to e1, rook takes on b4, and well, white just plays rook to d1 here. And well, I guess the c3 pawn, although it looks good, maybe is not doing the best here. Even something like knight to b2, you can look about winning the c3 pawn again because it's becoming weak. All right, back to the game. Queen takes on a2 was played, attacking this rook over here on b1. Rook over to c1. Rook takes on b4. Black's attack is just crushing through now, as he has many open files and diagonals now. Rook to h3. Here the idea is to try and trade off these rooks so we can try to attack the king. Here, Nepo is not worried. Pawn c3 check now. King back to d1. And here we go. Rook takes on h3. Queen takes on h3. Notice that the king has the escape square on e7 here. So this queen check and this knight, although they are a very deadly combo, are not going to be doing too well this time. You can see the d4 pawn is hanging. And there's even some mating threats here too. Rook to b1 got played. And this is a very devastating move. In fact, at this point, the game is pretty much over now. Here, knight takes on e6 check got played just out of desperation. And, well, king to g8. If you do end up taking over here, well, there's going to be some checks here. Queen h8 check, king e7, queen takes on g7 check, and king to d8, and then you'll eventually be able to run across. But why deal with any of these kind of checks? King to g8 just gets played. Bishop to d3. Notice, of course, here rook cannot take, as queen takes on b1 is just going to be check and mate. So bishop d3 is actually moving the bishop out the way, threatening over here on h7, but also making an escape square for the king. All right, black to move. What do you do? Let's keep attacking. Rook takes on c1 check here. King over to e2. And here a very nice idea. Rook takes on c2 check. Remember, each move matters here. King over to e3. And pawn to g6. Once you've stopped the attack here on h7, it's pretty much just game over now. Here white tried knight to g5. And then Nepo finds another very nice move. Can you find the final blow here? Hopefully you found it. Don't forget, feel free to push pause. Here Nepo found rook to e2 check. And well, Evingen just went ahead and resigned. Why? Because after bishop takes on e2, queen to d2 check, king over to f3. Here, queen takes on g5, and again, the attack is just pretty much over at this point. Queen to c8 can get tried here, but yeah, I mean, you have a passed pawn over here. Even computers just saying, look, you can play queen f5 check to trade off the queens. You can play king to g7. Yeah, you just have a lot of different ideas in this position. All right, guys, just to reiterate, this was the MacCutcheon defense or the French defense. And remember, when you're playing this line, do not be afraid. Just move your king over. Do not feel like you have to castle here. Remember, it does get mistaken a lot for the Winavar variation, but it's because the knight comes to f6 and allows this pawn to e5 is where it gets its name. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to give us a like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next video.